Good evening, students. I'm there with yet another XAT rapid revision session, right? And just before you're going to take a XAT exam, we're all set to go for a super duper fast revision, okay? In my previous session, I gave you inputs on there are certain questions in the question paper that you can quickly track and solve, right? Especially some grammar and vocabulary questions, right? You can save time by solving those questions. Okay, that was the limelight of the previous session. In fact, we also got to understand how and to what extent, how much and to what extent XAT as a question paper is different from the CAT question paper. Okay, in today's session, I'll start with some specific questions, right? Good evening, good evening. All right. So in today's session, we are going to focus on some specific variety of questions that make, in fact, that's characteristic feature of this exam. Like, for example, poems. Okay. So only once in CAT that poem was asked, once or twice. But as far as XAT is concerned, it has happened many. In fact, every year there are one or two poems in the question paper. So in today's session, I'll be taking you through how to attempt poems, although there's no set method for attempting poems, but yes, this discussion will give you some idea of how to go about attempting poems and what methods of elimination to adopt while solving poems. At the same time, you see, the question paper is also populated with a lot of critical reasoning questions. Okay, so CR questions हैं, poem है. So the point is, आप समझो, right? So the point is, जो आप benchmark बनाते हैं, you solve simpler questions to start with, ठीक है? और simpler questions को solve करने के अलावा, if you are able to solve a few more difficult questions also, that will take you closer to a 99 percentile in XAT. That is the idea. Okay, so in the previous session, we saw how you can track some simple to solve questions. In today's session, we are going to see how to try and attempt a few slightly more difficult level questions and get them right. Right? So it's a combo of reading comprehension, critical reasoning, and to start with, poems. Okay, so here we go. First poem, right? I'm going to read the poem aloud, okay, for your benefit, okay? A spirit that lives in this world and does not wear the shirt of love. Just imagine reading such poems sitting in the exam hall. And fortunately, when it comes to this exam, बड़ा time आपके पास होता है इस question paper को handle करने के लिए. In all, you have 180 minutes and you can freely distribute this time among different sections. ठीक है. A spirit that lives in this world and does not wear the shirt of love, such an existence in deep disgrace. Be foolish in love, because love is all there is. So upon reading the first two sentences, it becomes quite evident that the author speaks about the significance of love in life. So the thematic highlight of this poem, for that matter, seems to be around love, unless there is a transition or a change in the lines that are to follow. Be foolish in love. Okay. There is no way into presence except through love exchange. If someone asks, but what is love? Answer, dissolving the will. So see, that theme does not change. The theme of the poem is love, right? Okay. If someone asks, what is love? He says, dissolving the will. So you have to dissolve your ego, for that matter. That's how it goes. True freedom comes to those who have escaped the question of free will and fate. Love is an emperor. So, well, the poem gradually moves from the basic idea of love to a state of mind wherein you can experience true freedom, provided you follow author's guidance as mentioned in the poem. right? So he beautifully highlights it, right? Anything born in spring dies in the fall, but love is not seasonal. With wine pressed from grapes, expect a hangover. But this love path has no expectations. You are uneasy riding the body. This is the central theme. Now, it's the main idea of the poem for that matter, right? Don't ride the body. Right? What dismount, travel lighter. So how can you travel lighter? By not hinging yourself to the body, by not connecting yourself to the body. That's the idea. Be clear like mirror holding nothing. तो कुल मिला के बोझ हल्का कर लो. मन को साफ रखो, लोगों को जज मत करो, is what he is saying. That is the hallmark of love, and that will make you lighter. All in all, we have sort of understood the poem. But in order to solve the questions based on the poem, you may not always require to understand every line and every word of the poem. Let's take a look at the questions and see how you can adopt the logic of elimination to solve the questions. Okay? How are the words free will, fate, and will used in the poem above? We know, okay? Free will, fate, and will. These three words are used in the poem. We know. Okay. How have they been used? So it's there, right? If someone asks, there's no way in the present through love exchange, right? So these three words that have been used, free will, fate, and love. Free will, fate, and will. All the three words are opposites of love. All the three words are opposites of love. Can be considered to be the correct option because the author indicates in the poem that yes, free will, fate, and will. Like if you adopt free will, right? Fate यानी किस्मत जिसको बोल रहा है और जो आपका will है, and very clearly indicates that you have to part with your will. है ना? आपको अपना will त्यागना पड़ेगा. It is very clearly indicated in the passage. So yes, you have to be independent of free will, fate, and will in order to embrace love. So conceptually speaking, yes, poem में indication है कि opposites हैं. That is one. Second, these words are used as a hallmark of an intelligent person. बड़ा आसान है इस option को eliminate करना. The author does not talk about love and intelligence in the poem, so this is out of scope. Free will and will connote self-determination, while fate connotes loss of control. Nothing of this sort is suggested in the poem, right? So free will and will connote self-determination. So self-determination का connection free will और will से ऐसी बात तो कर ही नहीं रहा होता, right? So this is also not there. Right? It's easy to eliminate option. So these are used as something that corpses do not possess. Again, totally out of scope. It's not related to corpses at all, right? Free will and will are synonymous with fate and is an antonym to both. No, this is also totally false, right? Right, he doesn't say free will and will are synonymous. That in itself is wrong, okay? So the point is, what you can evidently see here is, ये सारे options में गलती निकालना मुश्किल है ही नहीं. ठीक है, आपको बस इतना समझना है कि लव का जो थीम है उसमें मेन पॉइंट दैट द ऑथर वांट्स यू टू अंडरस्टैंड इज इफ यू लेट गो ऑफ योर ईगो you will be able to experience love in the true sense, which means that these three words, free will, fate, and will, are opposite of love, which means they stand in opposite position to love. Okay? Because इनको छोड़ने से ही you will be able to experience the benefits or the experience the true love. That is the idea. Therefore, the correct answer is A, and all the other options are false or out of scope of the poem. Okay, so the point to understand here is by elimination, you can solve poem-based questions, right? Okay. Which of the following is closest interpretation of lovers have some secrets that they keep? Now, this coming from the last few sentences of the poem, right? You see, be clear like a mirror, be clean of pictures and the worry that comes with images. Gaze into what is not, ashamed or afraid of any truth. Okay. Contain all human faces in your own without any judgment of them. Be pure emptiness. Okay, that's what is inside of that? You ask. Silence is all I can say. Now the question is asking you to answer, identify this point here. ये silence का मतलब है क्या? क्या है ये silence? Okay, what is the silence all about? Okay, that's what the question wants you to answer. Let's look at the options. Let's look at the options now. Okay, the secret refers to the profundity of knowledge. Author does not mention knowledge anywhere in the poem. He doesn't relate love with knowledge at all. So this is totally out of picture. Silence is not related to knowledge. Okay. The secret is not to have any secret. Okay. Let's figure out because but I mean the point here is we do not always take poem at face value. We need to get into the philosophic idea of the poem also. So let us keep it aside for some time. Option B. Option C पे आते हैं. The secret refers to freedom from emptiness. This is purely false. क्यों? क्योंकि author बोल रहा है you have to be empty. You have to empty your mind. So it is not freedom from emptiness. It is that you have to be empty from within. उल्टी बात हो गई. It's contradictory. So option C is contradictory. It's not freedom from emptiness, but you have to embrace emptiness. Option D. The secret refers to being a fine judge of human quality. You don't judge, is what he is saying. Again, this is contradictory. E. The secret is about loving someone as much as you love yourself out of scope, right? How much you love yourself and how much you love others, all that is not brought about in the poem, brought forth in the poem at all. So, point यही है कि ऑप्शंस को एलिमिनेट करना मुश्किल था ही नहीं इसमें. तो कई बार ये होता है कि यार वी थिंक दैट इट्स I may not be good at solving or understanding poems, and therefore I'm going to totally leave the poems, whatever, whatsoever. Don't go with that mindset. Just read it up if it's possible, right? And you may find simple questions even when it comes to poems. Okay. So here, let's say A, C, D, or E को eliminate करना आसान था. Okay. B is the correct answer. The secret is not to have anything secret. Why? Because look at it. Be clear, be clean, be pure emptiness. What does that mean? The silence that comes as a result of being clear, clean, empty, which means actually you don't hold anything. That is the secret, right? Simple. Therefore, the correct answer is B. That is how you solve these questions. Okay, fine. Now let's move on to the next one. This is a poem by Sylvia Plath. Well, I don't know why they have selected such a dark poem, right, and to be given in the exam. It's a very dark and melancholic poem, but a tragic poem है. ठीक है. Black lake, black boat, two black cut paper people. Where do the black trees go that drink here? Their shadows must cover Canada. A little flight is filtering from the water flowers. Their leaves do not wish us to hurry. They are round and flat and full of dark advice. Cold words shake from the O. The spirit of blackness is in us. So, upon reading these lines, sure, you're filled with grief. The poet very clearly expressing grief, melancholy, right? Black, the color suggests. Cold words shake from the oar. Or चप्पू जो होता है नाव को खेते हैं जिससे, right? So even the oar is sort of shaking out cold words, right? So not only human beings are silent in any case, but even the things that seem to be talking symbolically, right? They're all in deep grief. They are cold, empty, void, dark, no emotions. That's the idea, right? So that is how you understand. Okay. Now let's read the question. Question number 3. Which of the following options best explains the effect of the images in line 1? Right? Which of the following options best explains the effect of the images in option number, oh sorry, in line number 1? Let's figure it out. The first line encapsulates the theme of the poem. Let us give it a thought, right? What does the first line say? Black lake, black boat, two black cut paper people. So basically, it describes a lake, a boat, and people. That's it. Lake, a lake, a boat, and people. That's what it describes. So the poem, the entire poem is not about the lake and the people in any case. So it's a tragic thought altogether. So it doesn't sort of build up the theme. It doesn't encapsulate the theme. Encapsulate means to sort of cover the theme altogether. So it is not a sentence that completely covers the theme. And therefore, this word itself very clearly indicates this option cannot be the correct option. Okay. The images are suffused with an overpowering sense of rebellion. Okay. How do we know this? A sense of rebellion means, sense of rebellion is something is sort of rebelling. Okay. Talking back. So that is not, there is no symbolic representation of rebellion in any case. Right? It's not there. Hmm? There is no symbolic suggestion. Rebellion की बात first sentence में तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं आ रही. Black people, just think about it, right? Black people, black boat, cut paper people. Doesn't talk about or even suggest rebellion in any case. ठीक है. Third पढ़ते हैं. The atmosphere indicates a cyclical nature of life and death. Cyclical nature मतलब लाइफ शुरू होती है फिर डेथ होती है फिर डेथ के बाद लाइफ आती है. ऐसी तो कोई बात नहीं हो रही है उसमें. There is no such indication. So this is also very easily eliminated. So what you can see is all the options are easy to eliminate if you pay some attention to it, right? To the poem and to the options. That's about it. Huh? Best explains the effect of the images in the line. So these three cannot explain the effect. There is no symbolic representation for these. D. The black lake lacks regenerative potential. Black boat connotes the funerary boat. Cut people are unreal. Okay, upon having eliminated these three options, can we select the fourth option? Okay, let us keep it aside for some time. Let us discuss option E. The repeated use of black suggests evil. Evil and melancholy, there is a difference. ठीक है, darkness है poem में, evil नहीं है. Evil मतलब बुरा. ठीक है, तो बुरा दुख वाली बात है, बुराई वाली बात नहीं है, right? So there's nothing evil or sinister being indicated, even symbolically. So as you could see, we could eliminate 4 options. Now let's read option D again. The black lake suggests lacks regenerative potential. Now think of the imagery. In the poem, if you look at the theme, she's described a very melancholic and a dark situation. The theme is dark. The theme is tragic and melancholic. Where, I mean, she is taking you into that dark world. Now, when I say effect of the images, which of these options do you find a sentence that's creating the effect of darkness, melancholy, tragedy? Okay, see, uh, well, uh, this doesn't say overpowering sense of rebellion. There is no melancholy here. कोई इसमें ट्रेजेडी वाली बात नहीं है. सिक्लिकल नेचर में कोई ऑफ लाइफ एंड डेथ में कोई ट्रेजेडी वाली बात नहीं है. सिक्लिकल नेचर अलग चीज होती है. ठीक है. ओके. एंड देन इविल इज नॉट डार्कनेस. ये बुराई होती है. राइट. सो वेन ब्लैक लेक लैक्स रीजनरेटिव पोटेंशियल, इसका मतलब उसमें पोटेंशियल ही नहीं है, उसको यूज ही नहीं कर सकते आप, वो रीजनरेट नहीं हो सकता। ठीक है। ब्लैक बोट कन्नोट्स फ्यूनररी बोट, इसलिए वही बोट है जिसमें जो लोग मर जाते हैं उनको ले जाते हैं। ठीक है। द पीपल हु डाई आर टेकन टू द फ्यूनरल बाय दिस बोट। ओके। cut paper people are unreal, there are no people there. Think of the situation, so dark, right? So D is the best option. This is the imagery of the first line. So best option is D because it very suitably explains the imagery, right? The darkness in the imagery is captured only in option D. That's how you should understand this, right? Okay. Which of the following options best presents, sorry, option presents a convincing evaluation of the line stars opening among the lilies. Stars opening among the lilies. Let's see. Now, stars opening among the lilies. यहाँ lilies is like flowers you already know. So, थोड़ा, it seems the poet has given a break to us in the poem, right? In the sense, बहुत डार्क और ट्रैजिक बात करने के बाद आप देख रहे हैं पोएम में, ठीक है, एक स्टार्स ओपनिंग अप among the lilies seems to be a contrast. एक contrast हमको इसमें दिखता है, ठीक है। Okay. Now, first question of the poem, as in fifth question. Which of the following statements will the poet agree with the most? That is the first question. Okay. Desire overpowers hatred to control. I'm sorry. Is this the? No, no, no. Sorry, I jumped the questions. Just one second. Okay. Which of the following option presents a convincing evaluation of the line stars opening among the lilies? The stars are the flowers in the sky and the flowers. Let's go back to the poem once and read it again. They are round and flat and full of dark advice. Cold words shake from the ore. यहाँ तक तो बहुत ही tragic चल रहा है poem. So tragic idea going on. The spirit of blackness is in us. It is in the fishes. A snag is lifting a valedictory pale hand. Matlab, see the extent to which the author has gone to explain the imagery of melancholy. Think about it. Huh? मतलब वो blackness का जो spirit है हमारे अंदर है, it is there in us, right? It is in the fishes that are swimming in the pond or lake, whatever, right? And then a snag is lifting a valedictory hand. People are not there. Valedictory hand मतलब सोचो एक कोई ऐसा मृत इंसान टाइप है जो हाथ हिला रहा है. So it's all dark and gloomy out there. Huh? Are you not blinded by such expression like sirens? Right? Again, grief. लेकिन बीच में जो सेंटेंस है स्टार्स ओपनिंग अमंग द लिलीज, दैट्स अ कॉन्ट्रास्ट। क्वेश्चन तो इसी पे आया है, द क्वेश्चन इज बेस्ड ऑन दिस। ओके, सो स्टार्स आर फ्लावर्स इन द स्काई एंड द फ्लावर्स इन द लेक आर स्टार्स इन वाटर. There is no such connotation that stars are flowers. There is no such connotation. Okay. The ethereal light. What does ethereal mean? Something that's not perceived to be real. It's not perceived as real because it's floating. It gives you a floating sensation. Something that gives you a floating sensation. Okay. And therefore it's not considered to be real. That's ethereal. But then the ethereal light of the star gets reflected. There's no connotation of ethereal light. Okay. All that it suggests is in the darkness, you can see the reflection of the stars in the lake. That's about it. The spirit of blackness does not hinder the appearance of beauty in nature, which is the symbolic of hope blossoming in the soul. I was talking about the idea of contrast. If you look at this option from that perspective, so far the author has suggested in the poem that see, it's all dark out there. Even our soul is dark. Right? We are also engulfed in that darkness. हम भी उस darkness में घिरे हुए हैं. Huh? The spirit of blackness does not hinder the appearance of beauty. But still, the idea of contrast is there in this option, right? It doesn't hinder the appearance of beauty, as in stars being there amid that darkness indicates that beauty can be there amid such darkness and melancholy. And option C very clearly captures this idea. So can be the correct option. It actually connects with the symbolic idea of that sentence in the poem. The mirror images the worlds above and overlap, right? So the mirror images the worlds above and overlap. No, no, it doesn't talk about the mirror images. Okay, there's a contrast. Lilies purify the dark into light as symbolized in and by stars. Lilies purify the dark into light. Now, uh, well, this says it does not hinder. You should very carefully compare the options, right? It's very important. If at all, you sort of start making a comparison between C and E, what you should first of all do is just think about the theme of the poem. It is total darkness, a transitional contrast by one sentence. बस एक sentence में बड़ा एक contrast आया है. स्टार्स का अपीयरेंस है इस डार्कनेस में भी. तो क्या मतलब निकलेगा कि स्टार्स ने इस डार्कनेस को खत्म ही कर दिया एंड इट ट्रांसफॉर्म्स डार्कनेस टू लाइट, या इट हैज गिवन यू अ ब्रेक, it gives it a break. That's the point, right? So there is no indication that the transformation is from dark to light. Overall, the poem is dark. There is no transformation. And therefore, option E is eliminated. There is no such transformation, right? There is only transition, no transformation. Transition matlab, it gives you a break. In the sense, yes, it does not hinder the appearance of beauty. Okay, so even in that darkness, you can notice some beauty, which is okay. That is about it. But all in all, it's all dark out there. It's all melancholic or tragic out there. That is why option E is eliminated. Clear hai? समझ आ रहा है? Great. Right. Wonderful. Keep listening to me carefully. I'm sure this is going to help you immensely in your preparation. Okay. Now let's read the third poem of the day. Right. I've taken these poems from different years' XAT question papers. Okay. Some say the world will end in fire. Some say in ice. From what I have tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to know that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. So we can see some alliteration here in the poem. However, let's look at the questions directly and figure out the answers. Which of the following statements will the poet agree with the most? Sometimes, in a hurry, we do not read the questions carefully, right? So it's first of all very important to read the question stem very carefully. The question is not asking you to identify true or true statement. It's asking you to identify the option with which the poet will agree. Let's figure out. Desire overpowers hatred to control humans. There is no such relationship between desire and hatred established by the poet in the passage. Correct? So he will not agree with this, therefore. He has not established any such relationship between desire and hatred. As in, इंसान का जो desire होता है, वो hatred को overpower कर लेता है. Right? So desire overpowers hatred, as in there are two things in a human being, desire and hatred. Desire will overpower hatred and hatred will vanish, desire will be there, something of that sort. So nothing of that sort is indicated in the poem. As you can see, the poem simply says, right, be it fire of ice, ultimately, whether it's desire or hate, both will lead to destruction. Yes or no? Whether it's desire or hate, ultimately it will lead to destruction. So there is no concept of desire overpowering hate. Greed can destroy one's world. Let us give it a thought. It is not directly indicated in the passage, It's not directly indicated in the poem. I'm sorry. Huh? It's not directly indicated in the poem. Greed can destroy one's world. Is it indicated in the poem? Fire, eyes, from what I've tasted of desire. Yes, he does talk about desire. So desire may result in destruction. So this has some indication of greed for that matter. That's about it. So there is no direct indication of greed. However, when the poet says desire, hmm, and then for that matter, uh, hate, okay, ultimately they result in destruction. Okay. So the world will end in fire. The world, some say in ice. Fire or ice? What's going to destroy this world? Okay. So, well, it can be desire or hate. That's about it, right? So desire goes with the idea of greed. Okay. S- Long story short, ambition is more powerful than any gaya. Seedha hi gaya. Doesn't talk about ambition. Both desire and hate can create self-doubt. Self-doubt is not talked about. Finished. Hatred destroys what does not say at all, right? So hatred destroys something that desire does not. No, both hatred and desire can be destructive, is what he is saying, right? Therefore, the correct answer is B. Author will agree with this because the author says desire can cause destruction, can bring about destruction. Therefore, he will agree with the point that greed can destroy one's world. Correct? The correct option is B. Which is the most unsuitable title of the poem? Which is the most unsuitable title of the poem? Think about it. Right. See, basically, so far I've been explaining. Okay. So the idea is you can really start thinking now because I've given you enough inputs. Okay. So which of the most unsuitable? So A and B, the two options have come on my screen. Let us evaluate. See, first of all, unsuitable बोल रहा है. पहले तो समझो टाइटल होती क्या चीज है. हाँ? जैसे मैं जहां से क्लास ले रहा हूं उसके बाहर बोर्ड लगा हुआ है स्टूडियो. तो मैं भले अंदर ना हूं तो मुझे बाहर से ही पता चल जाएगा ये स्टूडियो है. करेक्ट. I do not have to come inside the studio to figure out whether it's a studio or not. Correct? So title का मतलब होता है बाहर, I mean, if it's there at the top of the book or the content or the passage, I would know what is written in the passage or the poem or whatever. So यहाँ उल्टा हो रहा है. The content is given to you and you are being asked what title will be the most suitable one. Right. Now, since you already know the content, you are supposed to figure out कि इनमें से कौन सा टाइटल है जो उस कंटेंट से जुड़ रहा है और कौन सा है जो नहीं जुड़ रहा. The one that connects with the content and the one that does not connect with the content. The answer is the one that does not connect with the content. Why? Because you want the most unsuitable title as the answer. Right. So A, love and detest a tale of destruction. It is connected. It is connected. Although it talks about hatred, however, detest is there. So detest basically means hatred. So you cannot directly eliminate this option because it is partly present in the poem. The annihilation hypothesis. Yes, this can also be a title in a way. What is annihilation? Annihilation means destruction. The theory of destruction. That's the option B. So it can be it's related, it's relevant at least, right? Emotional destruction of the world. This makes no sense at all. Emotional, right? Yes, Abhishek, you're absolutely right, right? Emotional destruction of the world does not connect with the theme of the poem at all. The author doesn't talk about emotional destruction. He only talks about desire and hate causing destruction, right? So destruction by fire and ice can also be considered because of the words fire and ice used by the poet. How the world ends, the end of the world, destruction in a way, can also be related. The most unrelated one is emotional destruction. This is not at all indicated in the poem, and therefore the correct answer is C. So there are two things, right? The logic of elimination should be properly adopted while solving poems. The theme of the poem should be clearly understood by you. If you are able to understand the theme of the poem, only then you should solve the questions. Otherwise, you should leave the poem. Okay. Now, again, yesterday, as in the previous session also, I discussed a few grammar sessions or grammar questions. You know what? Grammar questions are highly rewarding and you can solve them very quickly. Okay. Which of the following sentences uses a wrong tag question? So basically, it's based on the concept of question tag. Question tag में होता है, he runs fast, doesn't he? He is good, is isn't he? So isn't he, doesn't he, etc. are the examples of question tags. So question tag का क्या basic फंडा होता है? Basically, you figure out the subject and the verb, okay, and based on the usage of the subject and the verb. अगर subject verb में positive usage होता है, तो question tag is negative. And if the subject verb are negative or have a negative implication, then the question tag is positive. Subject verb positive, question tag negative, subject verb negative, question tag positive. That is the relation between subject verb usage and question tag. Okay, fine. So there is little point in doing anything about the match, right? So there is little point is negative. There is little point is negative. The verb क्या है इसमें is है. यहाँ वर्ब इसके लिए क्या आया है? Is आया है. जो भी वर्ब होगा यहाँ पे वही वर्ब आएगा. Then it will get converted into a question tag. Okay, okay. So there is a little point. Is there any point? पूरा लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है. Is there is correct. Why? There is little point. A little positive होता है, little negative होता है. So little point being a negative expression, there is a positive question tag. Correct sentence. He has few reasons, positive or negative. Few is positive. Sorry, few is negative. A few is positive. Few is negative. A few is positive. Okay. So he has few reasons for saying no to the match. ठीक है. He has. Verb क्या आया? Has. यहाँ पे verb क्या आया? Has. सही है. Has he. Positive आया. ये क्या है? Negative expression. Few. Negative होता है. यहाँ positive आया. सही है. This sentence is also correct. Let's look at C. Nobody has called for you. Right. Nobody pronoun के लिए they आता है. Nobody, somebody, everyone, no one. ये जितने indefinite pronouns होते हैं उसके लिए they आता है. They is used. So this is correctly used. So nobody has come. So for has will become have for they. This is also correct. So nobody has called for you. Negative expression. Haven't they नहीं होगा. Have they ही होगा. क्योंकि nobody has called again is a negative expression. It becomes positive in the question tag. Has becomes have because nobody becomes they. Correct. No problem. Moreover, he plays well, isn't it? Look at this sentence. There's something wrong. He plays well. और वर्ब क्या है इसमें? Plays. जब भी वर्ब के पहले मॉडल यूज नहीं होता, he has played well ऐसा तो नहीं लिखा है. He plays well लिखा है. इसका मतलब main form of the verb directly यूज हो रहा है. In such a case, when the main form of the verb is directly used, huh? Do or does is used. Do or does is used. So correct sentence should have been, moreover, he plays well. Doesn't he? Doesn't he? ये होना चाहिए था. Right? Doesn't he होना चाहिए था. यहाँ लिखा isn't it? So this is a wrong sentence. Do you understand my point? You like to play, don't you? You like to play, positive. Don't you? Negative. Absolutely. Like, जैसे यहाँ play है, यहाँ पे like यूज हुआ है, सीधा verb यूज हुआ है without any modal. इसका मतलब do आएगा. Do का negative form आएगा. क्योंकि यहाँ क्या है? Positive है. यहाँ positive है. Do या don't में से कुछ आना चाहिए. Do या does में से. Right? You के साथ तो do आएगा. But since it is a positive expression, यहाँ पे ये क्या हो जाएगा? Negative हो जाएगा. You like to play, don't you? Absolutely correct. Therefore, the only wrong construction is in the sentence D. in the sentence. D. The correct option therefore is D. D. Delhi. Right? The correct option therefore is D. Delhi. ठीक है, आगे बढ़ें. I hope you're all making the most of the session. Keep listening carefully to me, and I'm sure it will take you closer to the exam and you'll become more and more familiar to the question format. Okay, now in this analysis of poems, right? D for D for question number 7. Uh, there is an option that has popped up on my screen. D option. Right. D for which one? 7th question only, right? I've already marked the correct option for this. Okay. Let's move on to the next set of questions. That is, again, it's a poem. Huh? Sit. Sit. Drink your coffee here. Your work can wait a while. You are 26 and still have some of life ahead. No need for wit. Just talk vacuities. Vacuities means empty talks. कुछ भी बात करो यार चलेगा types. Right? And I will reciprocate in kind or laugh at you instead. Huh? So, like poet is saying, आओ यार बैठो अपन बात करते हैं. काम तो चलता रहेगा. Let us take a break. Huh? That kind of spirit. Okay. The world is too opaque, distressing, and profound. 3 words: opaque, distressing, and profound. And which means a lot of things going on. It's really very complex out there. Take a break. Huh? This 20 minutes rendezvous is basically a meeting or a meeting place, right? This 20 minutes rendezvous will make my day. In a way, the poet is saying, like it's a second person address. Okay. Talk to me. Hello. Chill, relax for some time. Take a break. Let us have a conversation. Let us have a small talk. Huh? To sit here in the sun with grackles all around, staring with beady eyes, and you 2 feet away. And so author actually sort of sets the context for the poem, right? So this is the imagery of the poem, right? You are sitting 2 feet away. There are grackles, are birds. They're all around, looking at you, and all that. That is the context of the poem. But the basic idea, the theme is, let us take a break from the drudgery of the world. World is really very complex. Come on, let's chill for some time. That's the idea, right? Anyway, having understood the theme, it was not very difficult to understand the theme of the poem, right? Okay. Now, then we start solving the questions. Okay. Which of the following best captures the essence of the poem? Okay. Let's figure out. Let's create our own meaning in life, no matter what, right? Let's create our own meaning in life, no matter what. Own meaning in life, no matter what. ये दोनों में बड़ा सवाल है क्योंकि ऑथर तो ब्रेक लेने की बात कर रहा है, right? Creation of own meaning and all. It's not there in the poem, right? It's going up. It's going beyond the theme of the poem. You can clearly see. Correct? Let's eat, drink, and be merry. He doesn't say this. It's an exaggeration in the lap of the nature. This is too much to say, right? It's an exaggeration. So first option eliminated because it's out of scope of the theme of the poem. Second one is a clear case of exaggeration. He doesn't say this. Let's celebrate our existence, not our work. This is he doesn't uh, um, he does not want you to ignore your work, right? He's all that he's asking is you should take a break. Let's be gibberish, not rational about life, right? तो कुछ अलग करते हैं, लॉजिक को छोड़ते हैं, ऐसी बात तो नहीं कर रहा है. No, not rational is totally wrong. He doesn't say that. Rationality is not indicated. Yes, absolutely. Very simple, right? Let us enjoy a moment of peace in this busy life. Right? That's what he's saying. Simple. So the correct answer is E. The correct answer is E. Understood. So again, not very difficult to solve. What does the poet best convey by mentioning grackles? Grackles are birds in these lines, with grackles all around, staring with beady eyes, with and you 2 feet away. Now, what does it exactly bring forth in the poem? Let's see. अब आसपास पक्षी बैठे हुए हैं और वो उनसे बात कर रहा है, बात ये है, right? Let's see. We should not care about the grackles but us. Question mark. Not sure. Over witty discussions, grackles are the pleasant birds to look at. How do we know this? There is no connection between witty discussions and grackles in the passage. Eliminated, right? Grackles love to stare at us. How do you know? Grackles love to stare at us. Love to stare at us. It's not indicated. They are staring with beady eyes. That's about it. Whether they love to stare at us or not, not given. Right? However, and there is a contrast also. उनको बड़ा प्यार हो रहा है हमसे फिर भी हमसे दूर बैठे हैं ऐसा तो कुछ इंडिकेशन नहीं है राइट देयर इज नो सच इंडिकेशन इन द passage that that's the point right so well this is also gone out of scope. A small bird like grackle can give us lot of happiness. Grackles can give us happiness. This is also out of scope, not indicated in the passage. Grackles, like humans, love to bask in the sun. Characteristic feature of grackles is not indicated in the poem. This is also gone. See, it is as easy as this to eliminate the options, right? All the options are safely and quickly eliminated. We are left with only one correct option. We should not care about grackles but us. But why is the first one the correct option? Because it connects with the theme. The poet is asking you to take a break. Okay? So why care about anything around us? Just sit and chill. So this connects with that idea. Therefore, the best option. Correct? Okay. The next one lined up is like for question number 10, 11. Right. Uh, just mention in the comment box. If you want some time to read it up, I'll give you that time. Just mention in the comment box. If you want some time to solve this question, I will allow you some time to read up this passage. Right? Please type yes if you have heard my instruction. Grackles are birds. They are some kind of birds. Grackles are birds. Grackles are some kind of birds. ओके ये कोयल वगैरह होती है ना उस टाइप का कोई बर्ड है वो ग्रैकल्स हाँ ओके अभी you start reading this passage okay if you are done reading the passage or this portion please let me know I will take you to the next slide yes they are small birds exactly बट बीडी आईज से समझ में आ जाएगा कि कोई तो हमको देख रहा है उससे भी आपका क्वेश्चन सॉल्व हो जाएगा इवन इफ यू डू नॉट नो द मीनिंग ऑफ ग्रैकल्स एग्जाम में कई बार ऐसा हो जाता है बट बीडी आईज से आप गेस कर सकते हो समथिंग इज लुकिंग एट मी उतना भी तो काफी है ना डू यू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट आई एम सेइंग you may not always be able to understand all the words but by taking a safe guess also based on the context you can solve the question So XYZ staring at us. XYZ, whatever it is, it's staring at me. It's staring at me and the poet wants to talk to me. So let us not be bothered about it. तो ऐसा निकाल सकते हैं. Okay, if you have read the paragraph, should I show you the questions? If you've read the paragraph, shall I show you the questions? Okay, next slide. Okay, moving to the next slide. Questions. Okay, here it is. I hope you have read the passage carefully. Now let us discuss the questions. Okay, what does the author best mean when he says we must discuss each question within the uncertainties that are allowed? Okay, just think about this question. In fact, uh, when you look at the options, again, I'm going to focus specifically on the logic of elimination. Okay, let's take a look. The uncertainties are limited by the nature of the answer sought. Okay, the uncertainties are limited by the nature of the answer sought. Are the uncertainties limited according to the passage? Just think about it. Even if you don't go back to the passage, like uncertainties, there's a probability that things are uncertain, right? And there is no limit that the author draws around uncertainty. कि uncertainty होगी तो ऐसी ही होगी, right? So they are not limited by the answer sought for sure. In fact, they go much beyond the answer sought. This option is totally contradictory. ठीक है, समझ आ रहा है? ये तो नहीं हो सकता. ठीक, that's the idea. Then let's look at the next option. There is a finite set of uncertainties for any question, right? Finite set of uncertainties. कहीं ऐसा indicated है finite set. Does the author say so in the passage? बड़ा simple है यार, है ना? अगर कोई चीज पैसेज में लिखी ही नहीं है, तो अगर वो ऑप्शन में है, तो you are going to quickly eliminate the option. Simple as that. So this says there is a finite set of uncertainties for any question. Finite set is not written. Simple, and therefore it's not there in the passage. Out of scope, eliminated. The question decides the amount of uncertainty. Again, question is not the deciding factor. Uncertainties are uncertainties. They exist. They need to be addressed. That's about it. Okay. The uncertainties should be relevant to the question. What does this mean? The uncertainty should be relevant to the question, which means any uncertainty that is not relevant to the question should not be evaluated. Correct? लेकिन ये तो बड़ा restrictive हो गया. ये तो बता रहा है clearly कि only such uncertainties should be addressed, which the passage is not saying, right? We must be prepared to accept errors in the app. That's the point here, right? This exactly gels with the main idea of the passage also. We must discuss each question within the uncertainties that are allowed. So what are the allowed uncertainties here? Allowed uncertainties actually mean like a lot of things that we may not be able to understand or grasp, all those are allowed uncertainties. We must make an allowance for that. Is That's what the author is saying. ठीक है. तो इस स्थिति में the only correct answer is E, and other options can be safely eliminated based on the reasoning I discussed with you. ठीक है. ये restrictive है D. That's about it. ठीक है. वो ये नहीं बोल रहा कि it should be relevant और केवल उन्हीं uncertainties पे ध्यान देना है. Correct option E. Clear है? ठीक है. So this does the business for this question. E is the correct option. ठीक. Next पे आते हैं. Which of the following best describes the essence of the passage? ठीक है. Which of the following best describes the essence of the passage? देखें. पहला बोल रहा है reasonable skepticism. Reasonable skepticism is the characteristic of a scientific mind. Does the passage talk about skepticism? Yes. Does the passage talk about a scientific mind? Yes. It does talk about a scientific mind. And in fact, if you look at the beginning of the passage, right? Uncertainty and doubt. A scientist is never certain. That is how it starts. And if you look at the lines that follow, right? By and large, this idea is elaborated upon. Although later on in the passage, the author does talk about progress and all, but basically it has to do with the approach that a scientist adopts. It's very clearly there in the passage. Okay, so well, in the option A, we should approach with skepticism. Skepticism मतलब थोड़ा doubt ही रख के देखना चाहिए कि यार कुछ भी uncertain हो सकता है, गलत हो सकता है, किसी बात का कोई भरोसा नहीं है, nothing is sure. So that kind of approach is basically a skeptical approach. So yes, this is there. This can be the correct answer. Doubting the established world order. Oh my God, doubting the established world order? It's not there. I mean, the passage doesn't talk about world order in any case, and doubting the world order, like totally out of scope. This can be quickly eliminated, right? Science can never give a conclusive answer. The passage doesn't say so. Very simply eliminated. Progress involves questioning accepted truths. What does this option mean, right? If I say like this option is sort of rebellious, right? The idea is rebellious, right? Established truths को आप question करोगे, accepted truths को question करोगे, तो वहीं से progress आएगी. But the passage talks about skepticism and doubt, uncertainty. It doesn't talk about progress by questioning the accepted truths. It's not there, out of scope only. Such a rebellious idea is not there in the passage in any case. So this is also gone. Reasonable discomfort with certainty is the path for. Now the point is, does the passage talk about discomfort or does it talk about skepticism? That is how you should compare the options in the exam hall. Discomfort with certainty? No, definitely not, right? Whether it's reasonable or whatever, the passage doesn't talk about discomfort with certainty, right? It's saying you should make an allowance for uncertainty and should adopt a skeptical approach so that you can really know what the truth is and can make progress. So therefore, this option is gone. This is the correct option. Correct? I hope you have understood the reasoning very clearly. You've understood the reasoning very clearly? Okay. And by the way, just to tell you, for the 23 years of my life in teaching, I've always addressed students in classes. They are live, they're present in front of my eyes, right? It's only now, these days, that I've started teaching in the studio and all. Okay, so any feedback, any comment, right? You just put it in the comment box so that I can see and connect with you wherever required, right? Thank you. We can think of the history of life on Earth. Read the following passage and answer the question that follows. Okay. So we have solved one RC, it seems. Okay, one reading comprehension passage. There is another small reading comprehension passage. You can see that, right? Yes, C and A, I think we have solved these questions, yes or no? A and, sorry, A and E. Okay, fine. These 10 and 11 we have solved. Um, Read this passage carefully before I go further. Once you're done reading the passage, please let me know in the comment box so that I can show you the questions. I'm sure you've all read the questions. Okay. Now let me show you the questions. You all read the passage. Here are the questions. Which of the following can be best concluded from the passage, right? This is a critical reasoning question. And in XAT question paper, you can see the question stem are a bit different, right? Especially when you compare it with the CAT question paper. Okay, the CAT question stem as in, which of the following can be best concluded? You know, such questions are often asked in XAT. Best concluded. Concluded means there should not be any doubt in your mind. You're not sort of adding a few layers and drawing an inference. It's almost directly indicated in the passage. That is when you can say it can be best concluded. Okay. Well, best concluded, and then there is a rider here, best also. So, which means that you need to compare the options. Without unforgiving competition, without unforgiving competition, okay, without, okay, the planet will be inundated with the weak. Does the passage say this? Does the passage say this in the first place, right? Without competition, the planet will be inundated with the weak. So weak people, the planet will be full of weak people without competition. No, this is not at all indicated in the paragraph. Yes or no? All that it simply says, the passage is, see, competition is there, okay, and there are no government regulators to protect the weak or favor the strong. The competition is simply there and it's quite stark, it's harsh, it is brutal. You see? Huh? All organisms are given a chance, but not necessarily an equal chance. Huh? As the climate and the environment change, some organisms are favored over the others, and these advantages are fleeting. What nature gives, nature can take away. Basically, the author suggests very strongly that nature is quite impartial and brutal. What it gives, it can take away. So that's a strong message in the passage. Now, look at these options now. This is not suggested at all. We can clearly identify nature gives a fair opportunity to every organism. No, this is contradictory to every organism. It is very clearly contradicted here, right? Necessarily, but not necessarily an equal chance. Okay, so okay, it's very clearly indicated here, not necessarily an equal chance. Fair opportunity to every to survive, not necessary, right? Okay, so this is also gone contradictory. Competition is critical to ensure survival. Competition is critical. It does not say so. It says competition is brutal at best, but not critical, right? So this is also gone. Forgiveness is alien. Does the passage talk about forgiveness? Did you find it anywhere in the passage? Not at all. This is also out of scope. This also eliminated, all right? Brutal competition is the only constant in the natural world, all right? Well, can it be best concluded? That's the point here. Brutal competition is the only constant. Okay, well, what nature gives, nature can take away. Okay, there are no government regulations. Okay, unfettered competition. Okay, um, every living organism is competing with all other living organisms. Okay, it's a dog eat dog competition. All of these very clearly suggest brutal competition is the only constant, can be safely concluded. Correct answer is E. Understood. Okay. I hope you've understood this question very clearly. Okay. Let's move on to question number 13. It is another critical reasoning question coming your way. Another critical reasoning question coming your way. Right? Read it up in 2 minutes carefully. Then I will show you the question. Okay. The painting is in a poor condition, it suggests. So the painting indicates something that highly advanced artistic culture was there 44,000 years ago. Okay. The scene may be regarded not only as the earliest dated figurative art in the world, but also as the oldest evidence for what? Communication of a narrative in the Paleolithic art. This is noteworthy given the ability to invent fictional stories may have been the last and most crucial stage in the evolutionary history of human language and human history of human language. Okay. So, in the evolution of the history of human language, it seems, you know, uh, the given the ability to invent fictional stories may have been the last and the most crucial stage. So, well, it was in the Paleolithic era that some evidence was found that indicated the ability, huh? That indicated the ability to write fictional stories. Okay, so what does it finally indicate, right? In the history of language and the development of modern like patterns of cognition. So basically, what it's saying is the ability to write story, which was reflected by the paintings, suggests that the beginning of the modern like patterns of cognition was there in the Paleolithic era. That's the crux of the matter. Correct? चलो इसको टेस्ट करते हैं. Which of the following can be best concluded? Similar question. Evolution of modern day languages started with Paleolithic era, evidenced through painting. Okay, जरा देखते हैं. Evolution of modern day languages. इस पे लगाते हैं सवाल. Question mark. The painting timestamps the beginning of the evolution of modern like cognitive abilities. Okay. Okay. The painting timestamps the beginning of the evolution of modern like cognitive abilities. Okay, let us keep it in reserve. The painting puts chronological context. Okay. Timestamps versus chronological context. What does the passage say, by the way? Timestamps मतलब मोहर लगा दे रहा है एक तरह से कि हाँ इसी वक्त शुरू हुआ था, right? And or it says, given the ability to fictional stories may have been the last in the history of human life. Well, it talks about evolution of history of, right? Given the ability to maybe last the crucial stage in the evolutionary history. So this makes you eliminate timestamps and chronological context to the evolution of modern cognitive abilities. So modern day languages is wrong. Modern day like cognitive abilities is right. So this option is eliminated. Option A is eliminated, correct? And then that brings us to what? Now you compare it with option timestamps. This is also eliminated. This is correct. So this seems to be the correct option. Advanced cognitive ability is substantiated by the painting. This is the opposite of what is stated in the passage. Advanced cognitive abilities developed in the modern era, not in the Paleolithic era. This is directly gone. Paleolithic people possessed advanced artistic culture. Evidence through paintings? No, no, no. In fact, it says modern like cognitive abilities, that evolution is, I mean, whatever we have reached today, the starting point was there in the Paleolithic era. So this is the correct answer. All the other options are therefore wrong. Clear hai? So now this is how you can eliminate the options. Once you are sure of the logic of elimination, I'm sure you will get most of the questions right. Remember, in XAT, accuracy is very important. Even if you solve, let us say, instead of 17 questions, you solve uh, 13 questions or 15 questions, like a compromise of 2 or 3 questions for the sake of accuracy is not a bad idea, right? Okay. Read the following excerpt and answer the 2 questions that follow. I hope you understood the previous question of critical reasoning clearly. Now solve question 14 and 15 based on the reading of these 3 paragraphs. Read the 3 paragraphs carefully, and then I will show the questions to you. Okay, have you read the excerpt carefully? Now, let me show you the questions. But before I do that, let's quickly read it up. We plan to right size our manufacturing operations to align to the new strategy and take advantage of the TCAP. It seems it's coming from a company. Okay, we accept to focus on phone production mainly in Hanoi with whatever. So we plan to shift. We plan to shift. This is the main takeaway from the first paragraph. Second, in short, we will focus on driving the volume, etc. With more speed, we will build on our own success, right? In the markets where, so, and we will continue building momentum. So this seems to be the main takeaway from the second paragraph. Para 3 says we plan that this world would result in an estimate. Okay. This would result in an estimated reduction of the 1,200 factory direct and professional employees. So that's about it. This is the takeaway from the three paragraphs. Let's look at the questions now. Okay. Which of the following can be best described as the core message of the excerpt? Okay. Let's look at the options now. Microsoft is shifting its base of production for Lumia along with the places it is interested in selling them. Shifting its base, okay, but it's incomplete, right? It's incomplete. It doesn't capture all the important messages that are there in the important parts of the message that is there in the excerpt, right? It's incomplete. Microsoft is reducing cost of operations, okay, and the number of staff, okay, involved in operations, okay, but doesn't talk about shifting the base, okay. Microsoft is reducing its cost of operations, marketing, and human resources while staying the course in Lumia. Yes, it's staying the course in Lumia, moving away from Lumia. Let us check. Right. We expect to focus on, okay, we will focus on driving Lumia volume in the areas where we already successful. Okay, fine. It's staying the course on Lumia, no doubt. Right. But then let us figure out later on. So this is a question mark. Microsoft is reducing cost of operations. So I think we can compare C and D. We can compare C and D. It's reducing cost of operations, correct? Now it's downsizing stuff. So this simply says it's reducing cost of operations, marketing, and human resources. Is it only reducing the cost, or it is clearly downsizing? What is given in the passage? It's clearly given in the passage that it's reducing cost and downsizing, which is not indicated in C. Therefore, C wrong, A and B already eliminated. D properly puts in all the messages together or parts of the messages together that are there in the excerpt, right? Cost of operations, downsizing while staying optimistic about the future, right? Is it true? Yes, this is also true. We will continue to build the momentum. With more speed, we will build on our success. All these sentences clearly indicate that they are optimistic. So this is quite the correct option. Microsoft is closing poorly performing factories and personnel. No, no, no. This is totally false, right? And therefore, quickly eliminated. They're not eliminating or retrenching people who are poorly perform. No, nothing of that sort is indicated in the passage. D is the correct option. Understood, right? So your takeaway here is there are critical reasoning questions and they're not very difficult to solve, right? You can adopt the logic of elimination and get most of the questions right. In conveying the core message in the para 2, what does the author do? Or what does the message do? It assuages panic. Assuage is to bring it down, relieve. So, is there any panic that the message in the second paragraph is trying to bring down? Not exactly. There is no panic indicated. Right? There's nothing, no message which addresses panic. It's not there, right? If you remember the second paragraph, it's not there. Look at the second paragraph, this one. It's like optimism and all such things. Nothing to address panic, right? Predicts a rosy picture. No, it's not there. Optimism is there, rosy picture is not there. Rosy picture would be an exaggeration. So this is also eliminated. Reassures a promising future. Yes, this is wrong while this is right. This is optimism. This is optimism. So this is right. Okay. Digresses from the line of thought. There is nothing of that sort. So this is also gone. Right. Elaborates the core message. No, it doesn't elaborate. Right. In fact, it talks about something different. And in fact, it elaborate. There is nothing like core message. In fact, there are three parts of the message. So elaboration is not there. Right. And therefore, this is also gone. So correct answer is C. Understood? Right? You're all with me? Wonderful. Okay, as I was telling you, in fact, as I told you in the beginning of the session, that we are going to deal with critical reasoning questions and poem in today's session. And that's what we are doing. Read the excerpt carefully, and then I'll help you to solve it. Which of the following statements? Okay, fine. You read it for some more time. Then I will start discussing the question. Because there may be certain excerpts that are not very easy to understand. And this is one of those excerpts, right? This is one of the passages that is not very easy to understand. You have to read it very carefully to understand the main idea. Okay, we're good to go. Which of the following statements can be best inferred, not a conclusion, but an inference, which means from the information in the passage, what you can draw, okay, from the passage. Okay, conquest and union are two ways of realizing the truth of our life. Let's put a question mark here. Okay, our habits and surroundings determine the truth of life. Is it true according to the passage? Okay, habits and surroundings, they determine the truth of our life. Okay, but then, well, that what is the truth of our life in the first place? What does truth of our life mean in the first place, right? Okay, war and conquest are part of the truth of life, are a part of the truth of life. Uh, does it really talk about war and conquest? No. So this option can be quickly eliminated. Okay. Principle of dualism is inferior to the principle of unity. No, no such comparison is there. This can also be quickly eliminated. So this option is also gone. The truth of our life co-evolved with our quest for sympathetic supremacy. Okay. Well, does it say that the truth of life co-evolved मतलब sympathetic supremacy के साथ साथ truth of life का भी evolution हुआ? I don't think any of such indication is there in the passage. Okay, so this can also be safely eliminated. We are left with options A and B for that matter. Okay, and to understand them better, it seems we need to go back to the passage. Okay, conquest and union are two ways of realizing the truth of our life. Let us verify this. Conquest and union are true ways of realizing the truth of our life. Okay, let's look at what truth of life is. The truth of our life depends upon our attitude of mind towards it, an attitude which is formed by our habit of dealing according to the special circumstances of our surroundings. So basically, what it is saying is, uh, well, it depends upon the attitude of mind towards it, and attitude also, in a way, is determined by the circumstances. So this is the idea. The attitude of mind is determined by circumstances, and the attitude of mind basically uh, is the truth of life. The truth of life depends upon that attitude. What I think, how I think, that is my truth of life, right? That's the point. Well, then it says surrounding and our temperaments. These are two things. Okay. It guides. So it guides. Basically, it guides as in the habit of dealing with this. It guides our attempts to establish relations with the universe either by conquest. These two words are there in the question, in the option also. Either through the cultivation of power, let us underline this, or through that of sympathy. So, uh, a conquest reconciles with power, ठीक है, and union reconciles with sympathy. Conquest को आप power के साथ जोड़ सकते हो और union को आप sympathy के साथ जोड़ सकते हो. Correct? And thus, therefore, this is a drawing it out. In our realization of the truth of existence, which is there in the option, we put our emphasis either upon the principle of dualism or upon the principle of unity. मतलब both हो गया. तो basically यहाँ क्या हो रहा है? Either the principle of dualism or the principle of unity, in a way, they determine the truth of life. मैं किसमें बिलीव करता हूँ? डुअलिज्म में या यूनिटी में? डुअलिज्म का मतलब क्या होता है? डुअलिज्म मीन्स द वर्ल्ड in which I live, it is separate from me. So basically, dualism means power. Dualism means power, okay, and therefore dualism connects with conquest. Dualism connects with conquest, and unity connects with sympathy, right? Unity connects with sympathy. So there you are. What does it say basically? So it's conquest or by union through the cultivation of power or through that of sympathy. So in our realization of the truth of existence, we put emphasis on. So how do we realize the truth of existence? Through conquest or sympathy, conquest or power. This very clearly, conquest and union in this case, are two ways of realizing truth. Through both, we can realize the truth. That's the basis. We emphasize that is what the passage is saying. So this is the correct option. Okay. Our habits and surroundings determine the truth of life, not directly. Our habits and surroundings are one part. Temperament is a more important part that determine our attitude, and then based on the idea of conquest or union, whatever our temperament connects with, that is how we connect. That is the truth of life, right? That is how we realize the truth of life according to the passage. Therefore, A is right. All the other options can be eliminated. So this was a slightly more dense paragraph to read and understand. I leave it to you, right? If you're well read and you can manage such passages, really wonderful. According to the passage, our emphasis on dualism or on unity is best guided by, should read the question prompt very carefully, is best guided by what? Okay. Is it guided by the attitude of mind formed by our habits? Okay, questionable. Okay, let's put a question mark. Our desire to achieve versus our focus on contentment. This is clearly wrong. Nothing of this sort is mentioned in the passage. We've already seen how powerful or sympathetic our surroundings and temperament are. Okay, how we deal with our surroundings and our temperament. So, what is the key here? How powerful or how we deal with? What does the paragraph say? How powerful our temperaments and surroundings are, or how we deal with them? What is the determining factor? It's very clearly written here, right? Depends upon our attitude of mind, which is formed by our habit of dealing. It is formed by our habit of dealing. Okay? It is formed by our habit of dealing. Right? It is formed by our habit of dealing with it, right? That's how it is, right? So habit of dealing तो काफी clear यहाँ लिखा हुआ है ना, right? तो बस इतना ही टाइम लगता है उस क्वेश्चन को सॉल्व करने में. The moment you see how we deal is the correct answer, right? How we deal is the correct answer. Simple as that. How we deal is correct. How powerful is wrong. So this is wrong. This is right. Question finished. That's about it. So one question was simple to solve. The previous one was slightly more difficult to solve question, which actually connected with the dualism and union. Okay. Okay. I hope you understood. Option E, I did not discuss because I'm sure you understood why that option is wrong. Okay. Question number 18. Read the passage carefully and answer the following questions. In fact, following this, okay, fine. There is only one question following this. So simply read the passage and solve the question. Great. I'm sure after discussing many difficult passages, this is you're going to find this passage quite easy. Okay. Which of the following statements can be best concluded, as I said, certainly established from the passage? Doing what is asked of a role is labor, while going beyond the role is work. I mean, this very clearly says, work on the other hand gives collective meaning. That's about it. Labor is simply what we do to survive. These are the two words. Matter ends there. So what should be the correct answer? Right? Work makes survival meaningful. There's only one option that talks about work being meaningful. Correct? This is the correct option. The matter ends there. I'm not making an explicit comparison with other options. Not required. Do you understand? So this was a relatively simple question to solve. Okay? The other options are far apart. Okay? Simply by looking at these two words, you can solve this question because there's only one option that talks about work being meaningful. That's the end of the story. Okay? Okay. Look at the next question now. Great. Okay. Let's see what the excerpt tells us and accordingly select the option. Okay. One theory of accidents is what experts call Swiss cheese model. What is it? A slab of Swiss cheese model has several holes, randomly and unevenly distributed. It's very, very important, right? That's the theory. So basically, this theory sort of is a hypothesis or a theory that highlights or that explains the probability of an accident taking place, right? So how can an accident be avoided and what all things should happen necessarily in order uh, for the accident to happen, right? Right. What should happen necessarily for the accident to take place? That's the idea, right? The if several slabs are stacked together, it would be impossible for something to slip through unless all the holes happen to line up. Simple. That is the theory. That is the theory. Unless all the holes line up, nothing can slip through it. What does that mean? That given the randomness of the distribution of the holes, unless the holes line up, things cannot pass through it. Symbolically, it means that an accident cannot take place unless there are many things that align. So it talks about alignment of many things, without which the possibility of accident is not there. Accident cannot happen. If even one slab doesn't alignment is the matter here, the impending catastrophe will meet a layer of resistance and the worst is averted, very clearly indicated. So the worst is averted, मतलब worst नहीं होगा. एक भी चीज अगर वो whole align नहीं हुआ, in the sense it doesn't align, then the worst is averted. There is a resistance. Okay. The catastrophe will meet a layer of resistance. That's the point. Catastrophe means the disaster or the tragedy. Aviation professionals will tell you that plane crashes never happen for a single reason. This idea, I mean, is exemplified. Here's an example to explain this idea further. There may be an identifiable primary factor, but it's usually a chain of events, an array of circumstances neatly piling up. Right. So there you are. All the circumstances should contribute to the accident. Only then the accident takes place, or the worst thing happens. Okay. Otherwise, the worst thing is averted. There is a layer of resistance. That's the idea. Now let's look at the options. Okay. Averting catastrophe is actually easier than it seems. This is wrong. Easier? No. It doesn't talk about it. The theory has a logical base. A catastrophe can be averted if, okay, if the preceding array of events meets resistance. Yes, this is true. This is true because uh, this very clearly says these two sentences. Even if one slab doesn't align, the catastrophe will meet a layer of resistance, which means if the preceding array of events meets resistance, the catastrophe can be averted, right? Why? Because even one hole doesn't align. Okay, the whatever has happened so far, that is immaterial, right? Those things might have aligned, but there is one hole that has not aligned. So yes, this is true. Okay, this can be concluded. Accidents cannot be averted since a chain of events. This is wrong. Accidents can be averted, right? Any historically relevant event is an accident because it involves a chain of, see, why any historically relevant event is an accident? Paragraph इस बारे में बात नहीं कर रहा है, right? It's beyond the scope of the passage or the paragraph, right? Because it involves a chain of preceding events. First of all, it's not a chain only, first of all, right? He's talking about a hypothesis of the theory where there should be an alignment, not a chain necessarily. So it's not a chain, and historically relevant event is out of scope. Okay. Any disaster is a culmination of many events happening in a particular order. No, the passage talks about alignment. The passage talks about alignment, not order. This is straight away gone, right? So we're left with only one correct option, B. This is how you properly eliminate the options. Okay, great. Let's look at the next question, 20. I'm sure you solved this question. A short question, though. An overwhelming preponderance of people have not freely decided what to believe. So all this question tells you that it's a huge population. I mean, by and large, majority. There is a majority. Okay, uh, have not freely decided what to believe. So basically, have not freely decided. That's the point, right? But rather have been socially conditioned. That's the word, right? They not decided what to believe. They have been conditioned or indoctrinated, brainwashed into their beliefs. They are unreflective thinkers. This is a statement. Okay. Now, which of the following statements cannot be concluded from the excerpt? So, what you have to do is you have to principally, basically figure out the odd one out. कौन सा इसमें से conclude नहीं हो सकता, right? Let's see. Things that we do automatically need to be reflected upon, right? Things that we do automatically need to be reflected upon. So basically, this passage talks about a passive acceptance. This passage talks about a passive acceptance. In a way, I can say this, right? So things we do automatically need to be reflected upon, or need to be reflected upon, right? Things that we do automatically need to be reflected upon. Yes, because the author is saying we don't reflect, right? So need to reflect is there, can be concluded. The inability to criticize one's belief leads to indoctrination, possibility, because the author is saying we are conditioned and we are unreflective. We are unreflective as in we don't criticize ourselves, we don't think, and therefore we are brainwashed. That's the idea here, right? So, yes, the idea of being unreflective can indicate option B. The inability to criticize leads to indoctrination. Can be there. A lot of people end up believing what they passionately oppose. This is a big question mark here, right? Does the paragraph talk about an ironic reversal? क्या पैराग्राफ में ये लिखा है जो हम अपोज करते हैं उसको बिलीव करते हैं? ऐसा लिखा है क्या उसमें पैसेज में? वी बिलीव व्हाट वी ओपोज, ऐसा लिखा है क्या उसमें? या जनरली ऐसा लिखा है कि वी आर ब्रेन वॉश्ड टू बिलीव एनीथिंग फॉर दैट मैटर? बट Is the idea of opposition there? Is there a paradox or an irony here? जहां पे जिस बात पे हम उसको अपोज करते हैं उसको बिलीव करते हैं, नहीं, ऑथर बोल रहा है जनरली हम किसी भी चीज को बिलीव करने पे मजबूर हो जाते हैं बिकॉज वी आर सॉर्ट ऑफ इनडॉक्ट्रिनेटेड और हम नहीं सोचते हैं, वी डोंट थिंक, दैट्स अबाउट इट. So this kind of reversal indicate it's a case of passive acceptance, not this kind of reversal wherein we believe something in which we oppose. This is not mentioned in the passage, and therefore this is the answer. Finished, because it says cannot be concluded. As simple as that. This is not mentioned in the passage. The paragraph does not say we are made to believe something that we oppose. No, it doesn't say so. Beliefs that appear normal and natural heighten their acceptance. This can also be concluded because since we don't reflect, okay, so anything that comes our way, we don't give it a second thought. Okay, we don't give it a second thought and then we naturally accept it. Can be taken. I'm not saying all of these can be definitely concluded, but are at least related to what is written, right? But this idea of believing in opposing thoughts is totally contradictory. In fact, it's not mentioned in the passage. So this is out of scope. A normal thinker finds it difficult to recognize what is happening to them. Yes, because that is how they are brainwashed. They are brainwashed because they are unable to recognize what's happening to them. This is also related to the idea. C is the only correct option. Point made? Okay. So easy questions are there, but you need to be very careful and apply the right sense of logic to be able to solve those questions correctly. Right. In fact, if you try to solve this passage, it will take a lot of time, right? You can solve it later on. Let us quickly solve two more questions of verbal ability. Okay. Which of the following conditional sentences, again grammar, just to wrap up, before I wrap up, are grammatically incorrect? What are conditional sentences? If wale sentences, the if sentences. If Sandhya had started from the hotel on time, she would have. This is called the unfulfilled condition. Exactly correct. There is nothing wrong. If I had prepared well for the exam, I would have done well. But I could not do well. ऐसा फंडा है इसमें. तो इसमें पास परफेक्ट आता है, इसमें वुड हैव, शुड हैव या कुड हैव आता है, बिल्कुल परफेक्टली सही है, इट्स एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट. देयर इज नो प्रॉब्लम विद दिस सेंटेंस, राइट? The students wouldn't have completed their assignment even if the professor would have. There is some problem with the sentence, right? The students wouldn't have completed their assignment even if the professor would have नहीं. Even if the professor had होना चाहिए था यहाँ पे. Would have been there नहीं. Even if the professor had been there, even if the professor had been there, would have been there नहीं होगा यहाँ पे, correct? So 2 is evidently wrong. I had traveled across Europe if I weren't afraid of airplane crashes. So if I weren't afraid of airplane crashes, I had traveled नहीं होगा, right? So if I weren't, so it should be I would travel. ये इमेजिनरी कंडीशन कहलाता है. ये क्या कहलाता है? इमेजिनरी कंडीशन. इमेजिनरी कंडीशन मतलब काश मैं ना डरता तो मैंने ट्रेवल किया होता, राइट? सो इफ आई weren't afraid of airplane crashes, I would travel across Europe. Right? तो I would travel होना चाहिए था इसमें. तो this is also evidently wrong. Okay. Saurav won't join music classes unless his father will ask him, right? Unless his father asks him should be the correct thing. And therefore, this is also wrong. The correct answer is E. So basically, if you know the basics of grammar, conditionals, etc., and in the previous video also I discussed, in the previous YT session I discussed as to, there are many grammar questions. If you know the rules, you can quickly solve those questions, right? Okay. Arrange the following sentences in a logical sequence, right? Again, just to highlight that there are certain questions which can be quickly solved, but as a result, and then there is a key connector here, um, latter. ठीक है? कितनी जल्दी you can quickly identify the links here. An HGV driver takes between 6 and 10 weeks to train a competent coder several years. HGV driver and a competent coder. Okay. And the demand for the latter has soared. Okay. So very clearly you can understand कि latter जो है दूसरा वाला, okay, the latter, he's the competent coder, and the demand for the latter, which means 5 and 3 should come together. I'm not talking about the opening sentence so far. 5 and 3 should come together. Okay. Then, and demand for the latter has soared among British startups. And as a result, limited access to foreign talent is a common gripe. Gripe means complaint. So why has this become a common complaint among the foreign limited access to foreign talent? Because the demand has soared in the British startups. So demand for the competent coders has soared in the British startups. As a result, limited access to foreign talent has become a common complaint of the tech founders in ventures. So simply put, 5, 3, and 2. 5, 3, and 2 is there only in one option. One is, then even if it starts with but, don't worry. When it comes to but ko hata ke padho usko, leave, omit but and read the sentence, you will understand. When it comes to companies that lack computer programmers, the government is far more sympathetic. It's it started from the middle of a paragraph. Hardly matters. We want the best sequence. 532 is there only in one option. A is the correct option. Your job done. Okay, so that's it from me today. Okay, so Ganeshan, this is Ganeshan signing off. I wish you all the best, right? Keep your eye on the easy questions. Number one, pick them and solve them. This is point number one to remember. At the same time, also try to leverage, कुछ difficult questions भी solve करने की कोशिश करिए, right? So that's it from me. Thank you. Bye bye. Have a nice day.